from 7 to 9 right here on The Fan.
You can now stream The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima live on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel every weekday from 6 till 10 a.m. Subscribe to the 92.3 The Fan YouTube page now for free. Catch all the latest Browns and NFL news and conversations right here. It's the Fan Offseason Special. Here are your hosts, Jake Volnick, Darrow Ryder, and Coach Lance Reisland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
It's not Tuesday, and yet another edition of the Fan Offseason Special and a proper final look at the NFL Draft before it gets started tomorrow with day one.
I'm trying to contain my excitement, but believe you me, I've never been more thrilled about anything than knowing we are 25 hours away from the 2026 NFL Draft, and we can put all the speculation to bed. So buckle up, prepare for the left turns, because they're coming.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, not only with the Browns, but, you know, after that first pick, it just can kind of go anywhere. Usually you have a pretty good idea where people are going to go. It'll be very, very interesting. We've talked about it. We've covered everything. So we got a couple more positions to cover, but this is going to be fantastic. Ready to get rolling with this.
There's no doubt about it. Full show packed for you guys. Jake Volnick, Lance Reisland, Darrow Ryder, who of course is always brought to you courtesy of Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store, all with you today. And it is going to be very draft centric after we get through talking about, because I feel like we'd be remiss as we talk about the offseason special as a whole. The Browns are not only just back in the building, obviously, but they're now out onto the practice field in some capacity. And I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it a little bit. We see quarterbacks throwing. We've gotten to hear from a couple of the quarterbacks. We can't just sit here and ignore that it happened. But I know I personally, Lance and I were talking off to the side via text, and he had sent me over your notes that you had taken from the day and being able to watch the guys. And I had thrown the question out to you. Did the energy feel different? Because it was something that Shedeur had noted. It was something that I heard a couple of people have noted. And Lance, you agreed that the energy kind of felt different from what it was last year to now with Todd Monken. That the energy in Berea was a different vibe. It's good to hear. The question then becomes, does that actually mean anything?
Well, there's a couple things. One is it's no pads. It's the first day. It's not a big deal, but it was good energy. Now, it's the honeymoon period because when everybody's new, everybody should be like they were. And so it wasn't anything I didn't expect, no matter who the head coach was going to be. Now, everybody wanted a totally different kind of vibe for practice. Well, coach, that'll change more when they get the pads on. When you go out to a practice, we all kind of do the same thing, right? You're going to do individual. You're going to work with groups. So if you think about the quarterbacks, they're going to do individual. They're going to work with the running backs. They're going to throw at the tight ends. They're going to throw with receivers. They're going to do skelly 7-on-7. They're going to do team situation stuff. That's kind of what football is, and that's kind of how everybody practices. The real difference will be when the pads go on. That fourth day when those pads go on and they're live, how much live do they do, and how live are they within drills? That's what I really want to see. But just overall, just a good vibe. Guys are smiling, good energy out there, so I thought it was good. It's kind of what I expected when you can definitely hear, as an older coach myself, a lot of terms I heard were very familiar in terms of how they recognize defense in the fronts. And if you're over 45 or older, as I am, those are things that kind of resonate with me. Rutenberg has great energy. He's everything you envision a defensive coordinator be, right? Great energy, passion. So it should be good. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do moving forward.
I mean, without anything going wrong yet, you imagine they haven't had the opportunity for anything to go wrong, and it make no difference. I mean, if it's Sean McVay, if it's anybody, I'm sure Sean McVay has players sour on him as the years go on. Or, I mean, even if Sean's going out there and putting you a chance to win a Super Bowl, you have players who don't like you as a coach. Like that, you're not going to please every single guy in the roster.
Nobody loves Bill Belichick.
Exactly. If somebody did, it was the few and far between. Like
people like winning.
Slater.
Yeah. People like winning. It's bottom line. Win, and you're a player's coach. Get the most out of your player's coach. You win. You got to win. That's what they haven't done. That's where they're at.
Like right now, Todd Monken might have 0 wins on the board, but he has 0 losses on the board.
Absolutely.
And that is an important thing in the conversation of this, is that I imagine, especially a lot of guys in this room who have been here, the conversation feels a lot different, not only because it's 2 different guys, but it's 2 very different personalities between Kevin and Todd. I'd expect it to be different. I expect just about everybody to be sitting there to be kind of amped up about that, right? It's a new feeling around the building.
Well, I did watch a couple of the clips the Browns had put out, their behind-the-scenes stuff with their social media team and whatnot, and obviously the way Todd talks to the team is a complete 180 than the robotic Kevin Stefanski trying to act like he's pumping guys up and stuff like that. With Todd, it's just natural, okay? It doesn't come across as phony. And I'm not saying that Kevin came across as phony, but, like, he just never was a rah-rah type of coach. And that's okay, okay? Not every coach, I mean, Bill Belichick's not a rah-rah coach either, right? So that's fine, but you got to, I think, a little the rah-rah yesterday that gets fans all excited and whatnot, which, by the way, helps we win 0 games this fall. But that's what people, get excited about. Oh, the new energy at Browns practice. Oh, it's so exciting. Yeah, no, okay. It was a practice. They threw some footballs. They're installing. Like, I'm not gonna go nuts over a practice where they're working on stuff. They're installing stuff. They're trying some things out. They're trying to get these quarterbacks to know and understand the new offense and what's going to be expected of them under center or from the gun. I can't get in the over analysis of practice right now, because it was the first one we got to see, number one, under Todd Monken, and number two, like, it at times should not look polished because of all the newness and all the stuff that's going on. And there were a couple of times yesterday where practice didn't look polished. But there's a difference between not looking polished and just being like a complete embarrassment, okay? And I have seen plenty of those practices under new head coaches, and that's not what happened yesterday. Like, that, it was a well-run practice. It was well-organized. Guys were where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there and all that, and there was a cadence to it and whatnot. But I'm not going to sit here and just put it this way. I'm still confident Nick Wilson's buying me a burger in October or November. So that's all.
No, I agree. It's you can't get too high, too low. It's like the quarterback situation that everybody wants to talk about. Everybody has asked me who was better and why. There's just no context, right? They ran the same plays. They ran stick. They ran snag. They ran like 3 route combinations both ways, just trying to get the footwork right. Now, footwork looked good. There was some good drills. Everybody, I said Deshaun looked really good on his feet. Didn't mean he was all pro. It just meant that I thought he looked healthy, right? And whatever that means, there's no pads on. There's no hitting. There's no chance of getting hit. So I thought he looked healthy. I thought Shador looked, really, really solid. Again, it's okay, no pads, no hitting. So it was a well-run practice. Can't get too up, can't get too down. It was just a well-organized, good energy.
I mean, we've already gotten to the point I'm watching, Deshaun and Shador run the fake pitch into a throw, and people are like, Shador looks lazy, not selling that pitch. That's not gonna. I'm like, guys, it is legitimately April 22nd. It's gonna be okay if he's even if it's him going through the motions, or maybe that's something he needs to work on. I don't know, but I don't think it's him just being like, beginning of camp, let's just fake the pitch, lob a ball, and then no, it's not what we're doing. He's going through the motions. He's getting ready to really ramp it up. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, and then they're doing some stuff at half speed and 3/4 speed. I mean, they ran a whole set yesterday where the quarterbacks didn't even throw the ball. They were working on the rollouts and the boots and all that kind of stuff and simulating. They just did the throwing motion, but they didn't actually throw the football. It's a little early to get to. In-depth and nitpicky about what's going on the practice field, but and I think part of it, I will acknowledge, I'm jaded. Like, this is like my 10th Browns head coach. I'm over it. Like, I don't get it. I do not get impressed by the offseason. Like, it will take a lot, whether it's the offseason program, whether it's training camp. It's going to take a lot to make me impressed by anything, because, like, I've just seen so many of these practices, and if I had $1 for every time I was impressed with a Browns practice and then looked at how they played in the season, you know what I mean? Like,
you'd be at least able to buy Nick that burger, probably.
I could absolutely afford to pay Nick's burger bet tabs.
Well, I got one thing I want to address. Mm-hmm. The Browns the quarterbacks have GoPros on their helmets, and everybody said, "Riz, what does that do?" Well, here's how. First of all, it's been around a long time. And it's not, it's awesome that the fact that they're pushing forward, right? It's like the offensive line. They didn't fix the offensive line. They addressed it, right? And I don't look at it as like, that's not a negative to me. Now, it might not work out, but they addressed it. And it's the same thing with it doesn't make you a better quarterback. No, it can. But it's another tool. It's saying, we're going to try everything we can to try to help them. Are their eyes in the right spot? So Darryl was talking about the situation where they didn't throw. That's actually the one time where the GoPro was pretty good, because as they watched that film, the quarterback didn't throw, but are his eyes in the right spot, right? If he would have thrown it, would he thrown it to the right spot? But for me, it's not about the GoPro. It's saying, hey, we're going to try different things to try to make it work. We're going to try different things to help our quarterbacks make good decisions. Is it necessarily end all be all? Absolutely not. But for me, it's all right, we're going to try new things to try to help them. And I think that's important.
Well, I think that the GoPro is going to help the two young quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, to Coach's point, so that when they get back and they're looking at the all 22 or the all 14 for the 7-on-7 there, and they're going back and they're looking at those plays in practice, and then you turn around and you bring up the actual GoPro footage of where they're looking at a given time. Now, I also recognize too, you can move your eyeballs without moving your head. Okay, and you hear that all the time. Oh, hey, can the quarterback look off the corner of the safety with his eyes without having to move his head and things like that? But it is I think it's a great addition to their platforms. They've got the rooms upstairs, the whatever they're called, the projected, the simulation rooms where you can do walkthroughs and stuff and insert yourself into plays and all that, no contact and whatnot. Like, that's great. I think this is another important tool for these young quarterbacks, so the coaches really can see where their heads are at on given plays, and also too maybe coach them a little better to do those next level things. And that's, hey, okay, your eyes, you're looking here to your right, but we want you to move the safety on the left. We want you to move him to the right with your eyes. So you can't just tell it by looking straight there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's just some finer things I think that they're going to be able to do with that. And I think that's a pretty nice addition by Todd Monken and the staff.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's one of those things where it's not going to make any worse by putting them up there. And I also think it allows you to, hey, like, there's so much you can show on film from essentially the bird's eye view of how they're looking at this. I'm surprised they haven't
done it sooner.
Oh, yeah, they've been doing it for a long time.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, just for his, and I don't mean that as a criticism, but like the Browns are usually, say what you want about the results on the field. Okay, let's separate that. But like, from a technology standpoint, from a tool standpoint, they are cutting edge. They're a cutting edge organization. They're always trying to find advantages and new ways of teaching and teaching tools and things like that. And I think there's also something to be said for tools that actually relate to this generation of player as well. Okay, because and coach knows this, not just from coaching but teaching as well. Like, you coach and teach kids today and players today much different than you did, I would even say, 4 or 5 years ago. It's dramatically different now. So, yeah, I'm surprised that they're just now introducing this into their program, considering all the other technological advancements that organization has for the football operations.
I mean, like I was saying, it takes away a bird's eye view, sort of. You break down a film, here's what's happening, and to the quarterback, that's not what I see, right? Like, the GoPro allows you to go through and say, here's your mistake, here's legitimately what you were looking at, recognize it different this time, or like, we have to look at how you're seeing it, and now we can adjust based off that. When you see it the next time, we can replay this 50 million times over and burn it into your brain, other than just, hey, here's the one all the way from the top where you can't really see what's happening, or I don't have the actual player's point of view on it. I think that doesn't hurt as well. Plus, I'll throw in there before we get to a break really quick, Shedeur seemed awfully happy to have Todd Monken as head coach. He was very, very complimentary in a way that, like, I don't think he ever talked bad on Kevin last year in any way. I thought he was very professional with it, said nice things about Kevin. He sounded amped up for Todd Monken in a way that he never said about Kevin.
He doesn't miss Kevin.
No, I don't think that for the slightest. And, I mean, that was a coach
I don't know that he's the only one, by the way.
I don't think you'd be wrong.
Let's be fair about it here, okay? Like, let's not just put this all on Shedeur. Like, let's be fair. I don't think he's the only one that missed Kevin Stefanski.
I think that's probably really fair. I mean, to be fair, he's the coach when you were thrown to the ball boy, and now you have a chance at the starting job.
Well,
probably like that guy better.
First thing he said was, hey, what's different this year? And he goes, well, I'm actually practicing this year.
A little bit of a jab, but also not wrong.
Factually correct.
All right. We're going to get into all of the things surrounding the draft. Obviously, a lot to break down. We have coaches' offensive tackle and wide receiver breakdowns coming up in the show. Plus, we're going to get to here in 5 minutes. Are there more scenarios on the board that you think leave you happy as a Browns fan? Or more scenarios that you could see the Browns making you upset give our opinions as well, talk this out. Again, coming up here in 5 minutes, it's Jake Volnick, Lance Reisland, Daryl Ryder, all with you guys on the Fan Offseason Special.
with the first pick.
The build-up to the NFL Draft is here, and we're on top of the latest news and rumors ahead of Round 1 on April 23rd. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Catch all the latest Browns and NFL news and conversations right here. It's the Fan Offseason Special. Here are your hosts, Jake Volnick, Darrow Ryder, and Coach Lance Reisland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Back with you guys here on the Fan Offseason Special, getting you ready for tomorrow's draft, Round 1, starting tomorrow night. And we have to break down everything. We got to do absolutely everything in our power to break it all down. Again, coming up here at 7:40, Coach is going to break down offensive tackles. We're going to get into that, which is obviously massive within not just, Browns pick at 6 or if they trade down. That's throughout the first round, and who knows, maybe even further beyond the first round. We got to look at all those wide receivers later on in the show. But I want to kick off the draft conversation in a different way, because I've brought this up several times, at least on Overtime. I don't know that we've talked about it that much here. But after laying out all the different draft scenarios we can get to, and there's so many, like of the guys you can draft at 6, or if you trade back, guys that you could draft between like 9 and 12, or who do you end up with at 24? I find myself in so many scenarios just being like, I think it's going to be really difficult for me to end day 1 of the draft or even day 2 of the draft and just be like incensed with the Browns. Like, how could you possibly, like, if you take 3 defensive players off the board immediately, I would be angry. Like, if through 39 I didn't get a wide receiver or an offensive tackle, I'm going to be really upset because I don't think that you properly are addressing the things in your room, and I don't buy into the fact that there wasn't any player of value across 3 picks that you could have helped out those rooms with.
Well, and you look at, like, the Browns' needs, right? Mm-hmm. Every year they need a quarterback. That just goes without saying, but we know that this is not the class that you're spending a first-round pick on one. They need offensive line help, preferably a tackle. They need wide receiver help desperately, and I would argue they need multiple wide receivers, right? You could argue they need multiple offensive linemen as well in this draft. You could argue corner or even safety depth.
Yep,
it needs to be addressed. What if they went edge rusher in the first round?
See, but this is
stacking talent. I mean, I'm okay with that. I really am. It sounds silly, but you're stacking talent, and that's in this type of defense where these guys are getting upfield. Obviously, it protects you with Myles Garrett. Obviously, people talk that angle, but for me as a coach, I'm thinking more the merrier up front, especially at that edge position. Once again, and then you get the idea of if somebody's traded, if you can't afford somebody, then you bring the next guy in, and that's what stacking talent does, where you're not constantly filling holes, right? The patchwork. Sometimes you got to put up a new wall. And I just think if you can stack talent, so if they, for example, if Bailey or Bain are there, I'm not hesitating. I mean, people think I'm silly, but I think those guys are better than everybody else on the field.
There are two things that I am convinced of going into tomorrow night's first round. And that is Andrew Berry's going to try all he can do to move out of 6. And he's going to do something that none of us saw coming. I'm convinced of it. I think that should they take an offensive lineman? Should they take a wide receiver in the first round? Yes. Will they? I don't know, because I was looking back to what happened last year, guys, and I don't think a lot of people had them trading out of 2 and drafting Mason Graham. I don't think a lot of people had them drafting Carson Schlesinger in the second round. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little unpredictability and a little surprise that occurred last year as well. Now, it worked out, okay? It ended up being the right move, and it's not to say that it can't be this time around, but those are the 2 things I'm convinced of. For sale sign is on 6. If he can move out of 6, he's going to, and he's going to hit us something that with something that we just haven't talked a whole lot about.
I think you're going to know right away what Monken's influence is. Right? And
yes.
So people talk about like the Jeremiah Love, and I tell people in the old offense, receiver is what you need, right? Because you're thinking receivers, you're thinking tight ends, backs, that traditional. This is a weapons-based offense now. And what I mean by that is that Jeremiah Love is more in the picture with Todd Monken than he would be with Kevin Stefanski, because with Kevin Stefanski, he's going to be a tailback.
Right.
With Todd Monken doesn't care. It's positionless. I got to find guys that can win, score points. And when he said that in one of his first press conferences with you guys, hey, I just want to score more points. That's what an offense is. I'm going to find ways to win.
Can I just solve that for you? He ain't going to be there.
Yeah, that's probably the reality of it.
No. Look, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I've talked about it multiple times in recent weeks. The more I thought about it, it would make sense. I just think the reality is he ain't going to be there. Like I think if the Cardinals pass on him, which it'd probably be smart for them to, because they're just not in that
They're
spot.
not a running back away.
Yeah.
Not even anywhere close. That team's so far off.
Yeah. Their team positional needs are just everybody. Okay.
Players.
Players.
Why wouldn't they take Love then? Once again, just to be kind of devil, because for me, they need everything.
Because you want to know why? Because you're going to get the kid killed, and also too, running backs in the NFL have a shelf life. Okay, it is the one position where there's a shelf life and there's a ticking clock, and it's very rare that you see. And I still can't believe it is, but the numbers and the statistics bear it out. Like, for whatever reason, like, you turn 30 as a running back in the NFL, you're going to the old folks home.
It's the car wrecks, right, Daryl?
Right.
It's the constant. And with Jeremiah Love's not a car wreck guy, though.
No, I understand that.
You're right, though.
But and so there's a shortened lifespan with that position, and that's why a lot of teams, they don't want to spend premium picks on that spot, and that's why it was crazy when the Browns traded up with the Minnesota Vikings so they could draft Trent Richardson. Okay, everyone thought he was going to be the next Jim Brown coming out of Alabama, and he started off well, but kudos to Joe Banner for recognizing it for what it was and getting a first-round pick from the Indianapolis Colts for him and moving him, and he fell off a cliff. He disappeared. He vanished. And listen, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to Jeremiah Love. I'm just trying to explain to you the groupthink in the NFL. So
there's a ton of research to back it out. I forget what the number of carries. I always forget the number. I should know it off the top of my head. It's like 1,100 carries, and the amount of running backs that just take an absolute dive after that point, like, their production just falls off. And there's outliers. Derrick Henry is like the biggest outlier of all because he's just still tearing it up.
But he's a train wreck guy. So we always talk about, we used to say that, right? Jeremiah Love is a guy, his touches will not be train wrecks. And what I mean by that is that train wrecks are between the tackle. So when you think about power, Nick Chubb, right?
Yeah.
So you think about Derrick Henry, between the tackles, power, counter, ISO, inside zone, where it's double teams and it's collisions. It's not Jeremiah Love. He'll run through a tackle on the goal line, but this is a space guy. Now, space guys, I would say, have more of a shelf life, because you guys are right. That's a for sure. Running backs don't roll down the hill; they fall off a cliff, and you're absolutely right there. But those are those in the phone booth guys that fall off the cliff, because you can only take so many shots.
Yeah, I will be moderately surprised if he gets past the Titans at 4, because I feel like he would be the perfect addition in Tennessee right now.
Yeah.
With Dable and Salah running that thing, right, and what they did in the draft last year. So if he gets by the Titans at 4, I'll be a little surprised. I think that's where ultimately he's going to. So that's why I'm a little amused. Thinking about, it's great conversation for us. And if he's there, I'm pouncing on that thing like a ham sandwich and getting that card in. But him and Caleb, that's the coin flip for me. If either one of those guys are there, you got to take the best players, and you just can't go by need. And if you can't trade 6 and you got Love and you got Downs there, I almost feel like you hit the jackpot. You're not going to lose with that particular pick. But there's just part of me that doesn't believe that either one of those. Maybe Downs will, because something tells me the Giants are going to gamble at 5, and it's part of the reason everyone's assuming around the league that's why they made that trade with Cincinnati, sending Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals for number 10, because they're hoping that Caleb Downs is going to fall to 10. And they can get him there. I'm not convinced that's going to happen either, but I do agree with Coach. I think Downs and Love are the 2 best pure football players in this draft when you're talking about blue chip talent, and we're sitting here talking about they're not even going to be top 2, possibly top 3 picks in this draft. It's crazy to me.
This is where it all comes full circle, though, because I would need a little bit more convincing from Andrew Berry when he talks, but I can live with Jeremiah Love. I'm fine with that if he falls and that's your draft pick. I'm fine with Caleb Downs. There's a boatload of tackles and a boatload of wide receivers that you could take at 6. You could take Reuben Bain. And as I watch it play out over 2 days, my big thing is within your first 3 picks, by the time you get past 39, get a damn wide receiver. Like, just get one. I need a wide receiver, period. Don't care. Don't wait until the 3rd round. Don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Just get one there. Tackle, again, am I going to be skeptical because I don't think you have a lot of depth there right now and you're putting a lot of faith in guys like DeJuan Jones? Of course. But I can see the pathway to thinking that's all right. And Andrew Berry really living and dying by it.
KT Leviston was at tackle yesterday.
I know it was my only thing yesterday. I thought for sure they were going to move him down inside. I still think that's going to happen. I really do after the draft. I think you're going to see. I would be shocked if he's not moved down inside.
Well, they might be short on tackles right now. No,
Yeah,
if guys
I mean,
standing out there.
Yeah, and then they had like 11, 12 guys there trying out.
They had a bunch of guys. You got to think he's going to move inside. I mean,
It was kind of funny listening to talking to us. Hey, these guys you brought in, are they just so you can actually practice, or are you actually looking at these guys? Like, what? Todd's going to be like, yeah, we just needed some practice bodies. No, of course it could be. Well, these guys are on a short list. We want to take a look at them, right? I mean,
of course. But yeah, I mean, it's so many scenarios where it sounds like, I mean, at least from listening to it, the two of you, like, if Caleb Downs is on the board and the Browns pass on him, you'd be a little upset. Yes, am I reading that wrong?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's not really
about upset.
It's
No.
the idea of it's at some point in time, draft capital, getting more picks. Daryl said it a couple weeks ago. Don't be cute. Go pick guys, right? You got 5 picks in the top 107. You should be able to get really good players without getting cute if getting cute is going to cost you. So for me, trading out of that, I don't know if Downs is there. Why trade out? You got the best player in the draft, I feel. Now, whatever they feel, what everybody else feels, that's always a different story. But if you're talking about a guy, then we talked about what if Delpit, that's the stack in talent. Delpit now has, maybe you don't have to pay Delpit the money he wants, and then he moves down and you get a safety. But when you stack talent, you're not crippled by when people leave.
You have 9 picks in this draft. And not to be a broken record, but 5 of them are in the top 110. You have premium picks this year, okay? Including 2 first-rounders and a high second-rounder. The only thing that interests me about moving down from 6 is if you're getting a 2027 first-round pick to do it. I'm over the trading down and because we're going to get an extra 4th-round pick this year or what. Like I don't care. You've got good quality picks right now. Take the guys. Like unless you're going to get an asset that helps you get the quarterback next year, which I think we can all agree that's what the target's going to be. They're going to try and win this fall. They're not going to try and fail their way into it. They're going to try and win this fall, but they want to get as many cards in their back pocket as they possibly can so that they can bid with the Jets to move up the board next year. But unless there's a 27 first-round pick, which not a lot of teams are willing to part with right now, keep that in mind as well. Like
just about nobody.
Right. It's going to be real hard to do. You're going to have to make a trade with a team that already has their quarterback, okay? But and there's a couple there. Dallas, Kansas City jumps right off the page, okay? I don't know, maybe the Giants, you could do something with them. But, I do think he's going to trade out of 6, but unless he's getting a 27 first, I don't know if I can get all that excited about it. I'd just rather them stay at 6 and take one of these guys.
All right. We got to get to Coach's offensive tackle breakdown. We can talk about a little bit more of this coming up at 8 o'clock, and we will. The draft conversation continues, but Coach is going to break down the offensive tackles in this draft, something the Browns, at least everybody really feels, they're probably going to address, and there's a good chance they address it early. It's coming your way in 5 minutes right here on the Fan Offseason Special.
anybody with your Cavs playoff coverage unless they have sports in their name. We are Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan. Catch all the latest Browns and NFL news and conversations right here. It's the Fan Offseason Special. Here are your hosts, Jake Volnick, Daryl Ryder, and Coach Lance Reisland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
You know, tackles are tackles. You're looking for certain characteristics because they've all got to be able to protect on an edge. Top rushers are not staying on one side of the ball, so we really do analyze it, within the aggregate position.
That's it. We're talking tackles, just like Andrew Berry. That's all. Tackles are tackles.
Is my face starting to get red?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe just a little infuriated.
Well, there's a couple things that tie into that. One is, you understand what Daryl's saying, but one is the quarterbacks are more mobile. Right, you are getting situational pressure where they're bringing 4 off a side or 3 off a side. So most teams aren't bringing just traditionally 4 like the Browns are doing now. The Browns are kind of unique in what they're doing because they have such good players. So I understand what he's saying there. I think it would clarify better if he would say, this is the type of body type we want. These are the type of feet we want. Because then you go, okay, tackles are tackles. But when you talk about Francis Maui-Noah compared to Fano, that's a different type of body type. That's a different type of footwork. That's a different light feet versus heavy feet kind of thing. So I think the explanation is not real clear when he says it like that.
Yeah, he's not great about it. And we talked about it a little bit last week, and it's just like, I know where you're coming from. I understand what you're trying to say. We got to come up with a new catchphrase. It's like tackles that I like can play both sides, and I believe it. That is perfect.
How easy is that? You change like 3 words, and now it's all right. You like tackles who are light on their feet. They should be able to play both sides.
It doesn't hit the clip the same, Coach.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't roll off the tongue like tackles are tackles.
You know what? It rolls off the tongue like the Browns is the Browns.
It does, unfortunately. Those two kind of go hand in hand, and neither of them make me feel very good.
No. That's like when I heard him say that. That's the first thing that popped in my head was Browns is the Browns.
It's not a good thing. But hopefully Coach finds us a tackle that can either just play left tackle or play both sides, because we're going to get into Coach Riz's breakdown of offensive tackles. Wide receivers coming later in the show. But, Coach, we'll start out the way we normally do, kind of go over your top 5 or so guys of who you really like and why you like them.
Well, number 1 on my board, who's been for a long time, is Spencer Fano. Obviously, everybody knows Spencer Fano, kid out of Utah, plays mostly right tackle. But again, when I think tackles, it's movement skills. It's being light on your feet, right? It's being heavy, but not looking like you're lumbering, right? Maui Noah, who I have at 2, he's actually gone. I've kind of taken him away from the tackle, even though I've done my tackles months ago. He's kind of moved down inside to me, right? And because the more you watch him, he's a mauler. He's more of a guard, more of a right tackle. But he's not a guy who can play both sides. In fact, I think he moves inside. Even though I think if you like him as a right tackle, I do not think he will transition to a left tackle as well as Fano. Then I have Monroe Freeling, and him and Alomu are kind of neck and neck. Freeling's kind of is not what you get right now, but what you're going to get in a year or two. Lomu's a guy. Both guys are extremely athletic. They're fast. People talk about arm length and stuff. I will say this about arm length: it is a real thing. However, if your feet are quick, you can neutralize your arm length, right? So if you're not a guy who can help with your arm length, you better be able to get square. You better be able to beat a guy to a spot, which these guys can do. Those are tackles I like. So Lomu, Freeling, those two kind of guys. Freeling gives you that true left tackle, 6'7". He'll be 330, light on his feet. It's just he hasn't played a lot. That's good for a tackle, in my opinion, because the tread, if you take him, I think that you're counting on DeJuan Jones, and you can also move Jenkins out there if necessary. And then the guy who is really just kind of enamored me is Maxi Iheanacho. And I've said that wrong 1,000 times. Nick has said it, told me 10 times how to say it right. I still get it wrong. But the kid out of Arizona State, he is a raw athlete. He's a monster guy. He kind of gives you that. He's not 300, he's 330, but he kind of moves like a guy 290. He kind of gives you those old tight end vibes, his ability to move. And for me, it comes down to elite tackle play in the NFL is, can you hold up against these speed rushers who not only are fast, but are also powerful? So you got to be big enough to, handle the bull rush of these monsters, but then block guys off the edge as well. So that's what separates the left from the right, in my opinion. And the footwork is the key. It's always about feet with the tackles.
Well, you look at a lot of the mock drafts. 2 things. One, they've got Caden Proctor to the Browns at 6, and then I guess I would ask you, when you just look at the collective talent in this draft class, which of these tackles do you think are like top 10 pick in the draft worthy?
Well, I can see. First of all, I can see why Caden Proctor fits. Once again, this goes back to the Jed Wills, because watching Jed Wills for years is always about 1-2. So when you watch Jed, I would watch him have a great day and do really, really well against Myles Garrett, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Win multiple reps, and then there'd be days he wouldn't even touch Myles Garrett, and it wasn't because he doesn't have a talent. So I think the reason, if you look at the draft history, that's where it can get kind of sketchy as the numbers. There's got to be 1-2. So the 1-2 from Caden Proctor is the only thing. But measurements, he's 360, he's 6'7", he can move his feet, he's got long arms, he's got great punch. All those things that you look for, the measurements, they are elite. So that's why people are like, Barry's going to like this guy because of that. If I had to pick, I would say Fano's a guy, and I would say Freeling's a guy. But I would also put Max Iheanacho in there, just as a pure left tackle. I think the two best left tackles in 5 years are going to be Iheanacho and Freeling. I think Lomu, I think Fano, I think they're really good too. I really do. But those are guys who are going to be really good, multiple positions. I think they're plug-and-play guys. They might be an all-pro once in a while. But I really think if you ask me who the top two tackles are in this draft, I'm going Freeling just because of what he can be, and I'm going Iheanacho because of the athletic ability. Those would be the two guys that I would say, if you had like I'm taking the best guy, we need this fit, for sure it would be those two, knowing that they might not be real good right away, but the talent is through the roof with those two guys.
How do you sort of balance that out? Because I've heard multiple people say similar things. Like when I talk to John Ledyard on Mondays, he tells me, well, Browns aren't really in a position to kind of go for it right now, so you can live with, maybe Minor Freeling's good in 2 years from now. Maybe he's good in 3 years from now. It'll line up when the Browns really want to make a push. And then you live with the idea that if they really like Freeling, if they take him, there's a good chance they're starting him pretty soon at left tackle, even if he's not ready. How does that change on your board of, do I go get this guy with 6, or do I have to wait until he's there at 24 or something later?
Well, if you look at a guy like Isaiah World, I think one of the best pass blockers is Trey Zune, the kid out of Texas A&M. Isaiah World is a monster kid out of Oregon, great feet, great athlete, doesn't bend as well as people like him to, those kind of things. So I would say, when you look at is Monken going to make the call, right? Because at what everybody is saying, that's not what Todd Monken's thinking. It's just like with the quarterbacks. Todd Monken's thinking, what am I going to do win week 1? So his thing is, he's probably not taking a tackle if he doesn't think he can start. And once again, when we talk about this matchup-based offense, that's for the offensive line as well, too. He's going to do, if Freeling is going to struggle with something, he's going to help him. He's also not going to set him up for failure. So there's some things that will happen in a non-system-based offense. You can help these guys a little bit more, and I think, that would come down to the want-to as well, right? Do you, Daryl said it best at the break, is it, as an offensive tackle, as a pro athlete, it can't be a job. It's got to be a passion, right? When you think about Joel Petonio, why would he want to come back? Dude loves playing football. When you go watch Joel Petonio practice, he practices like he's fighting for a job. And I've watched him for 4 years. I've been super, like Nick Chubb. These guys who are elite, they think they're fighting for a job, and it's because it's a passion. So I would think that would be a guy that Monk can say, he's got some things, but this dude wants to get good. That would be, the measuring stick. And it will also tell you, again, how much influence does Todd Monken have on this draft?
Yeah, and you look at how they reshaped this offensive line this offseason. I mean, you've got, Andrew Berry said Titus Howard could play left tackle if they wanted him to, right? Elton Jenkins, center, guard, pick a spot for him. Zion Johnson, same thing. So you mentioned the versatility. Who is because since this is the route, I'm trying to connect dots here. There's a method to my madness here. Since versatility seems to be the word of the offseason when you're talking about offensive linemen here, of these tackles, who is the most versatile player, do you think?
Well, I would say if we're talking versatile, I'd say Spencer Fano. He's a guy, and I'm going to throw not only with the versatility, I'm going to throw with the ability to play early. I think Spencer Fano is a pretty seasoned guy, even though he doesn't have a ton of starts. Comes out of Utah. They run a lot of pro-style stuff with the zone, inside-outside zone scheme. They also run gap schemes, so very multiple. But he can play center, guard, and tackle. So I would say Spencer Fano, and that's probably why people have him going so high, because he is very flexible. Blake Miller's another guy, a local kid, very flexible. But if I'm saying, if you're right, if they're staying with that flexibility and what they've kind of done, I would say Spencer Fano will be the guy they go after.
Well, because you look at what's happened to them the last couple of years with the offensive line. It's nobody's fault. Mm-hmm. You can't control injuries. they've just been decimated, and they've had to do the musical chairs up front. And so that's why, I mean, time will tell if the moves that Andrew Berry has made up front are ultimately going to be good moves and in payoff. It certainly makes sense on paper. Look, a lot of stuff makes sense on paper. Doesn't mean it's going to make sense when you're going on 11 on 11 on Sundays. But I think that there's some, I don't know if trauma is the word, but that's what I'm going to use. I think that there's some recent trauma organizationally of all the shuffling that they have had to do. And it certainly makes sense why they've done what they've done. That's why I asked you about the versatility, because I think that's really what they're going to be looking for, especially when you have your GM, EVP of football ops saying tackles are tackles. You're a tackle, you can play on the left side or the right side. So I think the versatility is going to be paramount when they make that pick tomorrow night.
Then I think it's Fano. If that's the case, I would say Fano.
He'd be definitely up there. Definitely don't need a situation where I'm going to get Cam Robinson for a pick. I don't want to do that again. Leave me out of that. All right. We'll get back to wide receivers coming up around 8:20. But at least the way that I see it, players should be the thing that matters on how you evaluate the Browns draft at the end of it. I think for a lot of people, it's position, which matters more to us. We get to it coming up here at 8 o'clock. It's the Fan Offseason Special. Fan Offseason Special, getting you guys ready for hour 2 of the show, as well as the NFL Draft happening tomorrow night. We are now officially less than 24 hours away from the start of the NFL Draft, which means we're probably about 26 hours away from the Browns making a pick.
No, the Browns. So this year, it's 8 minutes between the picks. I've already done the math. If they actually start it right at 8, which they're probably not, they got to do 5-10 minutes of the TV talking heads doing their thing. Okay, the Browns will probably pick around 9 p.m. Okay, that's assuming everyone uses all 8 minutes. 8 times 6, that gets them to around 9 p.m. And I'm allotting for I call it the opening segment of the National Draft coverage broadcast. What I'm hoping, everyone knows Fernando Mendoza's the pick. I just, I can I throw out my draft proposal?
I saw you told me yesterday. I think it's brilliant.
I have a draft proposal to because they tightened this thing up. Originally it used to be 15 minutes.
Yep.
Now it's down. Then it went to 10. Now it's down to 8. I think the first pick in the draft should be 2 minutes. Because you've had 4 months to figure out the first pick in the draft, and you've had 4 months to figure out if you're going to make a trade. Okay, and also the 2 minutes gives you an opportunity to take a last minute offer on the clock. Okay, 2 minutes for the first pick to turn that card in. Second pick should be 5 minutes. Okay. Because you've had time to game plan out, okay, that guy goes 1, this is what we can do at 2. You've had the time to game plan this thing out. You don't need the whole 8 minutes. And then, okay, if you want to go pick 3 and either keep it at 5 or then bump that to 8 for everybody else. But I think those first 2 picks, time should be shortened. Give me 2 minutes for pick number 1. Give me 5 minutes for pick number 2. Let's get this thing moving. You've had months and months and months to figure all this out. The Las Vegas Raiders don't need 8 minutes tomorrow night to tell the commissioner they're taking Fernando Mendoza with the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft.
Well, Daryl, how would they fit all the time for their handshakes and high fives over drafting Fernando Mendoza and making it official? They need the 8 minutes.
No, they don't.
No, I agree with you. They absolutely do. Listen, I would say just start the draft at 8 and just say the first pick is Fernando Mendoza. Now the draft starts. But that's just me. I would just say give them no time. If you haven't discussed something and figured it out by now, too late.
But like I said, the cheat code right now is around between 8:50 and 9 p.m. approximately is when the Browns will make that pick. Assuming they stay at 6.
I was going to say, that's the big if.
And then you're talking, I'm doing the math right now, you're talking about your 24 is going to happen probably around 11 o'clock. So, that's kind of... Those are your windows, and let's just hope because the league wants to get this thing done by midnight, because the draft had been bleeding over past midnight, and I think now they're like, okay, let's get this thing wrapped up by midnight or by 11:30, so stations could either get to the local news or get to their late night programming or whatever. But yeah, let's get this thing going.
Maybe kids could go to school in the morning and virtually in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, how would you feel? Seriously, how would you feel if you are a diehard? And I realize Seahawks won the Super Bowl, but how would you feel if you're a Seahawks fan or a Patriots? I mean, what the Chiefs? Now the Dolphins, I think, have 30. But you're fans of those teams, and you got to stay up till midnight to figure out or find out
who you're added in the draft.
Yeah.
Don't think I'd want to end up there either. But the segues us in to continue our conversation on the draft. Again, Coach is breaking down wide receivers here at 8:20. I threw out there before the break kind of what matters more for you in this? Because I think a lot of people like to take the idea that it's, of course it's the player that matters. That's always the thing that matters. I think that so many people walking out of here after even Saturday when the draft is done, but especially after day one, I think if the Browns were to go out and get offensive tackle, wide receiver, there would be a lot of people, doesn't matter the name that's attached to it, they would go, round one's a success.
Boxes were checked.
You literally check the boxes, which I personally don't feel that way at all. Now, I'd like you to address offensive tackle. I'd like you to address wide receiver. But I care about the play. If they go out and draft Denzel Boston at 24, you got a receiver, I'm still not happy. Because I think basically all you did was just go, hit the road. Denzel Boston's going to fill in for the spot for you and do just about everything that you do, but maybe at a slightly higher level, like as a prospect. That's the way that we're looking at it, where, again, you draft a lot of the guys, Carnell Tate, Casey Concepcion, these type of guys. It's like, oh, that's adding something then different to my team that I don't have right now. Same thing goes for tackles. You draft Caden Proctor, I'm probably not going to be very happy. It's a guy that I'm out on. Coach Riz just told us it's a guy that he's kind of out on. But if you go and draft Spencer Fennell, great pick for me. Like, I really like Spencer Fennell as well. It does matter player, but I think there are a lot of people who are going to just be satisfied by boxes checked. You got the positions out of the way. They address it. Hopefully they're right.
Yeah, I mean, Coach talks about this all the time. You know, it's about the players. And I'm still anticipating a left turn tomorrow night, something that just we haven't been looking at or talked about a lot, because that just is usually what happens with this football team, is they hit you with something out of left field, and they don't always take the obvious thing. Now, that's not necessarily a criticism, because just because it's the obvious thing, that doesn't mean it's the best thing. And it goes back to the conversation we've been having over these last couple of weeks doing this show, right? When you're talking about, hey, who are the best pure blue chip football players available in this draft? Well, Jeremiah Love, Caleb Downs. Easy, right? Well, Jeremiah Love, even if he's there, I'm pretty confident in saying he's not going to be a Cleveland Brown, because it just doesn't fit their team building process. They spent 2 draft picks last year on running backs, okay? And one of them was the second round pick for Quinshawn Judkins to be running back 1. That's his job, to be the lead running back. And again, I understand Jeremiah Love can do other things, but I'm just okay, practically speaking here, Caleb Downs would make sense, because Grant Delpit's in the final year of his contract, because the 3 safety look is becoming a thing in the National Football League now, right? So that one would make sense. Carnell Tate would make sense, but is he the best wide receiver in this class? Is it Tyson? There's an argument that Tyson is the best receiver, or the receiver that has the most upside of these guys. And I know Coach is going to get into his breakdown on all that, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but like, these are the conversations you have to have. Edge rusher, right? Is that the best player at that pick? I'm about best player on the board, because the Browns simply are just not good enough to be able to draft for need. They're not deep enough roster-wise, even on defense. Yeah, they've got a really good defense, but they do have some depth issues on that side of the ball. Linebacker, safety, cornerback, interior offensive line, and even on the edge a little bit. So, I'm about best player available. I facetiously say best Buckeye on the board. Okay, there's going to be 4 or 5 Ohio State Buckeyes taken in the first round. I would not hate if one of them ended up here in Cleveland. Okay, but yeah, I'm about best player. I understand what the needs are. We've been talking about them a lot, but give me the best player. And that's why I was at, when we were doing the offensive line breakdown, versatility. That's what they're doing. Okay, give me the most versatile guy that fits what they're doing. Because, if you're going to have, which again, I disagree. I don't think tackles are tackles, but that's what Andrew Berry believes. So what my opinion doesn't matter. What I think doesn't matter. It's what he thinks and what he believes. So he then has to find that player, and that's why as coach, okay, give me the most versatile guy, because that's what matters to them in their team building process, right? So that's just where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm always about best player. And, people, the pushback with Jeremiah Love, I think, first of all, foremost, schematically, I will say this, not to get too deep in the weeds, but this offense kind of delivers weapons, right? So when he says positionless and we're trying to score more points, he's trying to find matchups. So when you think about a traditional offense, receivers, like we said earlier in the earlier segment, that's not what this is anymore. But again, when you turn on the film, when I turn on the film, my thought is, it's like when I was coaching and now that I get to break down film every single day, the best guy on the field, the idea of not taking him because I want to take another guy because it just doesn't make sense to me. As a football coach, every time you have to stop the best player. Whatever position he plays, it all works out in the wash if you consistently take the best player over and over and over, and you stack that talent, then eventually you're going to get to where you want to get to. If you're filling holes, you're filling things right now. the surface level stuff. You've got to stack this talent that guys, I don't care what position Caleb Downs plays. I don't care if the Browns arguably had the worst offense in the NFL last year. The best college football player on offense this year is Jeremiah Love. Well, I mean, I understand the need. I understand the receiver need. But if I have a terrible offense, I want the best offensive weapon. And that's just simple. That's how I look at it when I watch the film.
See, like, this is where then I go back on it, though, because I do feel that if you walk away without 39, without a wide receiver, you've done yourself a disservice if you're the Browns. And I get where Jeremiah Love could fill that in, but let's play with the scenario. He's not even on the board. It's not even an option. You don't walk away with a wide receiver. I don't know who you're throwing the ball. Like, I don't know how this offense continues to function, and that's with, I think Todd Monken can do better with the guys that are in the room. I do think those improvements are there. Still look at that room and tell you it's not good enough. Go look around the National Football League.
Well, I understand that, but also, too, keep in mind, and this really resonated with me last week when, because I asked Andrew Berry about, hey, how do you close this gap? You got this great defense, and then just have this complete cluster mess of an offense, devoid of talent, really, outside of two players, Judkins and Fannin. How do you close that gap in your team building process here? Because you're about to waste a really good defense that you built, okay? And Andrew Berry mentioned development, internal development. And it goes back to the press conference after they fired Kevin Stefanski, the day they fired Kevin. And, Jimmy came out and said, well, we just didn't win enough, right? Unacceptable, got to knock this, all that. And then Andrew Berry comes out and says, well, my thought was it was more independent of the game results, that there were issues, which translates, and Coach knows this translates to development. Guys didn't develop. Well, there was Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel or and I think wide receivers, offensive linemen, two positions that I have criticized Andrew Berry, and I'm not alone, where I felt like he has come up woefully short, and it's the two positions they desperately need in this draft. That's offensive line and wide receiver. And he's not had a lot of hits at either one of those positions in the draft, and that worries me a little bit. But also, too, again, my opinion doesn't matter. He clearly has a higher opinion of some of these guys. He's got a higher opinion of Jerry Jeudy than I do. He's got a higher opinion of Cedric Tillman than I do. He's got a higher opinion, whether it's Jamari Thrash or Isaiah Bond, all these young receivers that he's brought in. Maybe Andrew Berry's sitting there, and I agree, they need it.
Yeah.
But what if Andrew Berry's sitting there saying, hey, these kids can play. Just for whatever reason, with the last staff, these guys weren't developed the way that I felt they should have been developed. And Monken's here, his staff is here, and they're going to turn these kids into players. Okay? How many, this is second, third year in a row, we're talking about Cedric Tillman and what a weapon he can be offensively? Mm-hmm. Okay, can you tell me at any point in the last, since he was drafted, can you tell me where Cedric Tillman resembled a weapon to you? A go-to weapon.
No, he's been a weapon on about 8 plays that I could count.
Okay.
In total.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make here, okay? So, just because we have that perception, that opinion, that doesn't mean that that's what Andrew Berry's is. So, I get what you're saying, and I'm right there with you. Need a receiver with one of the first 3 picks, okay? Got to have a receiver, but if not, you're going to get your answer. They think what they have is good enough, and the previous coaching staff didn't do a good enough job either using the players or developing the players.
When I look at Ced Tillman, you're going to know right now because he's going to – I think he was asked to do things out of his area. We were talking – I was talking with Daryl on the field, with KT Levinston. It was never laziness. He just can't do it, right? So I don't think these guys are going to be asked to do things that they can't do and focus on what he can do. He can be a good receiver outside in the flanks, use his length, use his body, run those type of routes, do those type of things. Highly impressed, I will tell everybody, with how physical and how much weight and still the explosion of Isaiah Bond yesterday. He's physically gotten himself. He doesn't look like a little kid anymore. He looks like a grown man out there. So I think you're right. I think they think there's more in Ced Tillman. Now, if Ced can't do it, I think it's on him because he's going to get the idea. He's going to get the opportunity. Isaiah Bond's going to get the opportunity to do what he does well. So I think you're right. I think they do think more of these guys. I still think they need to address it, but I do think in this players over plays type of scheme, I think you're going to get more out of these guys.
I think you absolutely can. You absolutely can. I still just don't think you have enough great guys in that.
But if you get a guy, but if you get an alpha, if you get a number 1, now these guys all get better because now the alpha takes all the attention. And then you're good. Then Jerry Jeudy and Fannin now. But you have to go. You're right. You have to go get that guy. And I'm not sure that they have that.
Make your list. Check it twice. We're going to find out how many alphas you got in your receiver room for this draft class.
Not a ton, but close. But a lot of not many, but close.
Well, we're going to find out coming up here in 5 minutes. Coach Ray is going to break down his view on the wide receivers, all coming up in 5 minutes right here on the Fan Offseason Special.
at 5 a.m. It's the Fan Warm-Up Show with Jeff Thomas. All the latest from the night before in Cleveland sports and getting your day started even earlier. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Catch all the latest Browns and NFL news and conversations right here. It's the Fan Offseason Special. Here are your hosts, Jake Volnick, Darrow Ryder, and Coach Lance Reisland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Back here on the Fan Offseason Special. If you want to know who we think the Browns are going to take, that's coming up at 8:40. And everybody's going to let it be known who we think the Browns are actually going to take and who we would prefer they take, which might be different answers. It might very well be different answers.
The final mock drafts are coming out.
They are indeed.
And yeah, there's a couple of them that if this goes the way, I'll be okay. We'll see.
And there was a couple that came out that if they went that way, I don't know.
Well, all the Caden Proctor, I've seen a couple Caden Proctor ones are. I don't see that. I just don't get it. And once again, I've been wrong many times, and I will be again. But that one doesn't make sense to me.
We'll find out if that's where they go. But we'll get our opinions going there to 8:40 because right now we got to go to Coach Rees and get your wide receiver breakdowns. Coach, we'll go right back to it. Your top 5 guys in the class. Who do you like and why?
Well, I'll start with the top 3. You got Lemon, Tyson, Tate, and that's the order I have. So Lemon, for me, is the best guy. I also think he's the best guy in Monken's scheme because he's a touch guy, can play inside or outside, really, really talented with the ball in his hand. He's a run-after-catch guy. I think of him as a Zay Flowers. Those people who like what Monken did with Zay Flowers can think of that. He's very, very tough. The interviews, I think, the off-the-field stuff has hurt Mekhi Lemon, but he is a really talented football player. I have Tyson at 2, and I think Tyson kind of is the mold between the outside guy that everybody likes with Tate, inside guy with Lemon, et cetera. But that injuries do bother me with Tyson. And anytime you have those type of injuries, and if you see the workout he has, he's a guy that is really sudden and twitchy, which you love, but sometimes that leads to injury. But he is super talented. And then I got Carnell Tate. I have Carnell Tate at number 3, and I know that makes a lot of people unhappy. But in terms of what I think a receiver is, he's really good at the catch point. He's okay at the release. He's not a super run after catch guy. And the idea that he played in a system where he wasn't the best guy, that's not his fault that he has Jeremiah Smith on the other side. But you're talking he wasn't the focus. He doesn't get coverage rolled to him. He's not the guy you have to stop in that offense. And there's tons of times where you can see on film where he gets soft coverage and he doesn't have the number 1 corner. That being said, still a really good player. Then I got Casey Concepcion, and I love Casey Concepcion. A guy that I've kind of have equal with him would be Omar Cooper. So same type of guy. Really sudden, twitchy in the slot, a run-after-catch guy. Zach Branch would be another one out of Georgia, a guy who's really twitchy. And then at number 5, I go a little outside the box here, but I just love the skill set he brings at Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. I think he's a big physical receiver that can do different things. Monken loves his guys to block. He's a big foot. He had a great Senior Bowl against high-level talent. He's really a lot more football fast than he is track fast, the 40 time. So those are my top 5 guys. Those top 3 are what everybody talks about. But if you're talking about who I think's the best and fits what the Browns need, it's Mekhi Lemon.
Just because they might be the best or the most talented doesn't mean that they're wide receiver 1. So that, to me, that's what the Browns need. They need an alpha. They need a wide receiver 1. So which one of those guys, in your view, is the best wide receiver 1 of them?
Well, when you think about wide receiver 1, most people think about the outside guy.
Yep.
If you're talking about the outside guy as number 1, which is not as prevalent as it used to be, right? It's more of a we got to move a guy to find him a spot against a matchup. But if you're talking about an outside guy, I would say Carnell Tate is the best pure outside guy, right? He's going to play. So you're talking the upgrade from Ced Tillman, right? Even though I think Ced can have a really good year and I really expect him to. You're the catch point, 50-50 balls. The ability to go get it in double coverage. Red zone hammer guy, 6'3", he's 195. He played in a great program, so he's well coached. Now, his success has nothing to do with the previous players at Ohio State, but it does tell you he's well coached, and it does tell you the program he comes from. They've had a lot of success, and they've had a lot of success in the NFL recently. So if you're saying an outside guy who's number 1, it would be Carnell Tate. The thing that I don't particularly, that's why I have him at 3, is simply his run after catch. I just think it's so important in the NFL that you can get not only the explosives, but the way you create explosives to get to second too, right? And I've said that with you guys before, and I think that's what Mekhi Lemon does the best. Now you could take a play action shot. Now, you would love to have a receiver, an alpha out there already, because then Lemon makes more sense, Tyson makes more sense. But if you get that number 1, as we talked, Now, Jerry Jeudy becomes a very good 2. Fannin now always gets a linebacker or a safety. They got to go nickel, which is going to lighten the box for Judkins in the run game. So there's so many things that legit outside receiver does. I don't think there's a receiver in this class that can come in as a rookie and be a stud 1 outside receiver. I think Carnell Tate can be very good, though. But I don't think he's a guy that's going to he's not Jamar Chase. If that's what we're holding it to, that's not where he's at, in my opinion. So the guy that fits this offense best would be Mekhi Lemon for me.
I have to ask you, because I brought it up last segment. I said why I didn't want Denzel Boston, because I feel like he's a Cedric Tillman replacement. Coach, am I off my rocker? Do you see it a different way, or does that feel like the exact same role they would be playing?
Well, I think Boston has a little bit better after catch, so he can play some of that slot stuff, run some of the underneath stuff. Some of the films you watch on Boston, he does a lot of things from both inside and outside, but then he goes away a little bit sometimes. And that's why early on in the process, a lot of people had him in the top 4, right? It was Lemon, Tyson Tate, and Boston. I think it's gone away because of the fact that he's not real fit. I mean, he's not real muscular. He's not real, he's not going to wow you off the line of scrimmage. So these big physical corners are going to get into his body. His releases are very average. He's not a huge run after catch guy. And he's not as good at the catch point as Carnell Tate. So I think that's why he's not as high. He's a little bit better run after catch, but there's so many better run after catch guys in this draft. So when Daryl was saying who are the number ones, I don't know if there's number ones, but I think in this draft as compared to previous drafts, and there's a ton of number 2s and guys who can really help in a non-system based offense.
Hey, we can look to you had Casey Concepcion up there. Hey, you compared Mekhi Lemon to Zay Flowers. I've heard the comparison of KC to Zay Flowers. Do you view them as 2 very similar players between Mekhi and Casey and kind of what they do?
Yeah, so I don't look at receivers as slot guys and outside. I look at it as an outside guy who's that big, long, rangy guy like Carnell Tate, and then I look at touch guys who you're trying to manufacture touches for. And I would even put Jeremiah Love in that, right? So when I look at skill guys, I don't look at positions. I look at, all right, on my call sheet, who has to touch the ball the most, right? And if you look at Casey Concepcion, if you look at Omar Cooper, Zach Branch, Chris Bell, even a Skylar Bell, a Skylar Bell out of UConn, these guys that are going to create yards for you, and you don't have to be exactly right. So if you think about an outside receiver, you have to have great pass protection. You got to have a great ball by the quarterback. Maybe the quarterback can throw that better ball once he's hot and getting rhythm. And that's what these touch guys do. All you have to do is get it to him in space, and then they're going to create yards for you, which is going to get the offense clicking and in rhythm. So that's what Monken likes to do. If you look at what Zay Flowers does, right? He can run vertical, but he's a guy who's going to create easy yards, but not everybody has to be right. And that's where the Browns have been the last 6 years, where in a system-based offense, all 11 spokes have to be right, and that just doesn't happen very often, not with the level of talent. So that's Casey Concepcion, I think, is the top guy, but Omar Cooper's a guy I'd be happy with. Zach Branch, he'll be available day 3. He's lightning in a bottle. He's not a guy that's going to wow you with his size, but find matchups for a guy like that. Skylar Bell out of UConn, same thing. So, Chris Bell is kind of an in-between guy, outside-inside guy. He's 220, coming off a knee injury. He's really talented. So, again, there might not be that number 1 guy, but there is a plethora of really good receivers that you can get from, first round, second round, even into day 3. There's some really good receivers this year.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, could the Browns afford, from a talent drop-off standpoint, because I really believe they need elite talent at the receiver position, and the best way to get that is by using a first-round pick. But because they have 39 and 70 as they go into the draft, we'll see what they ultimately end up with on day 2. But could they really afford to wait to day 2 to take a receiver?
Well, I think I don't think they can wait to day 2 if they're thinking about those touch guys. Lemon's going to be gone. Tyson, if you talk about Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper, Branch, Bell, I think these guys are going to be gone quickly, right? These are touch guys in space. But I do think you can get a really good long receiver on day 2. I think at 70, you can get a guy. There's going to be a guy that's going to slide. So even you talk about a guy like Ted Hurst out of Georgia State, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's really good, athletic, long, good in the red zone. You talk about the Lance kid out of North Dakota State, Trey Lance's brother, really, really talented. Another long receiver, runs really well. Even if you, day 3, you got Elijah Sherratt, right, the kid out of Indiana. 6'3", really good back shoulder guy. So I think you can wait a little bit longer. And I think for us, it's going to tell whoever they draft tells you what they think of two people. If they go inside guy, then they don't think very much of Isaiah Bond and they think they got to upgrade. If they go outside, if Carnell Tate's out the board, it kind of tells you what they think of said Tillman, that they need an upgrade there. So that's where I'm interested to see, like, what is Monk in favor? And for me, he's always favored. They haven't had great receivers in Baltimore. What they've had is touch guys.
Yeah.
So I really expect them to go, Casey. I would be shocked if they didn't try to attack Casey Concepcion. He is really, if those top 3 guys are gone.
Yeah, the Monken factor here is going to be fascinating to watch, right? Because if you get guys specific for him, that obviously bodes well for him. But if they go for the generic, can fit, be versatile no matter what you do, I don't know that bodes well for Todd Monken. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like,
what it tells you the influence he has. Right. This is the guy I want. If you look at that, when McVay got Puka Nacua, he said, this is what he fits for us. If they go back there.
He talked his GM into it. They posted the video.
Look what we do. This is how we do things. This is how he fits. And, if does Monken have that type of, not necessarily like you have to do this, but does he have that input and say, listen, and look at the success I've had with this type of guy? That'll be interesting because there's a guy, Zach Branch, that I think he's going to be available day 3. He's really good, but he's really going to be really good in Monken's. It's like the Browns' defensive line, right? It's really good because they're in this scheme.
Yeah.
Branch would be great in a Monken scheme.
It's the old adage, watch what they do, not what they say. I think we're going to find a lot out about what Andrew Berry thinks and feels about this football team in the next 3 days.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. All right. One final segment to go. We're going to figure out who we would prefer the Browns to take and who we actually think they're going to take. All coming up here as we wrap up the Fan Offseason Special.
/protect. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Make plans to join the most knowledgeable lineup in all of Cleveland media for NFL draft coverage.
The Cleveland Browns select.
We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Catch all the latest Browns and NFL news and conversations right here. It's the Fan Offseason Special. Here are your hosts, Jake Volnick, Darrow Ryder, and Coach Lance Reisland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
All right, final segment with you guys here on the Fan Offseason Special. The final one leading up to tomorrow's draft. And, of course, we'll be back. We'll review it. We'll figure out what happened.
All I know is we're almost there. 24 hours from now, we may be a pick or two away from the Browns being on the clock. Not to say, because I do think they're going to try and trade the pick, but
we get to talk about who they pick, though. We've been talking for months about who do we think. Now we're going to talk about who they get next time we're together. It's going to be fantastic.
I can argue even more fun than trying to determine who they're going to pick.
That's right.
But it's going to be a lot of fun. But we're going to do that right here, very quickly, because I think this is obviously the less important side of the exercise. But I want to go through it. If it was your perfect draft, and for the sake of the argument, we'll say the Browns have 6-24, and the Browns draft at 6-24, so we didn't get too wild. But if it was up to you, 6-24, you can take an imagine of who's there. What picks would you make? Lance, you can kick it off.
All right, I'm going to go at 6. I'm going to go Caleb Downs without question because he's the number one player on the board. I think he's a guy that's outstanding. And then I'm going KC Concepcion at 24. I got the best player in the draft, and then I got arguably the best player in space that fits the Zay Flowers role in Monken's offense.
Darryl, take it away.
I'm going to go... I don't think he's going to be there, but if he's there, I want Jeremiah Love. And then at 24, then you're probably looking at, maybe Monroe Freeling is you cross your fingers and hope he's maybe still hanging around.
Which you could. Yeah.
Wait, well, don't know. I mean, the talk right now is there's going to be this run on offensive linemen. So and this is now we're going to go with what they should do. For me, but I think what they should do is, and I'm going to credit you. You talked me into it. Spencer Fano.
Okay.
If there's going to be this run on lineman, go get the best, most versatile guy in the draft there. Go ahead and take him at 6. And I like the idea of KC Concepcion at 24 if he's on the board, and that gives you very good players that also fill 2 critical needs.
All right, if it was up to me on the terms of one, Carnell Tate has been my guy pretty much through. I would just take him with number 6, and I wouldn't think about it twice. And then of the guys who I think will be there, I think Caleb Lomu's really interesting. Like, a lot of people have him going.
Great feat.
Yeah, 27th to the Niners. I think, as you pointed out, Coach, like very similar to Monroe Freeling. If you're not going to get that guy at the top of the draft, because I think by the time that you get past teams like Philly and teams like Detroit, somebody probably pulls the trigger on Freeling. I would go ahead and just say give me Lomu because that's the next best thing in my eyes. And Darryl, your prediction was Fano and Concepcion, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Lance, I'll take your prediction.
So who do I think? Now we're doing what do I think they're going to do?
What do you think the Browns will do?
So I'm going to go.
I'm sorry. I messed it up. I went both at once.
That's okay.
No, that's all right. No, so I'm going to go.
Just speed ahead.
No, I'm going to go with. Here's what I think they're going to do. I think for some reason, I don't know why I say that. I think they really like Mekhi Lemon. And I think if they take Mekhi Lemon, I think it's because Monken is saying, I need a guy right now that can get me some yards, inside, outside, do some things. So I would say they're thinking Fano or Lemon, but for this drill, I'll go Lemon. And then 24, I'm gonna say it's gonna be Monroe Freeling if he's there, or I'm gonna say Maxi Iheanacho. I think they're gonna be wowed by his stats, and it matches on film. His thing is experience. He likes to play. He's not a nasty edge. So I will say, depending if they go, obviously, but I'll go Lemon. I think they're going to go Lemon, and then they're going to go to Iheanacho because they're going to be high on him.
All right. My prediction, actually, Darryl, is I've said this before, so I'm not changing it. it's exactly where you stand. I think that they probably, if they can't trade out of 6, they just go Spencer Fennell. Don't think twice about it. And I think similar to where you think on Lemon, they think if we can just survive to 24, get Casey Concepcion. It's a guy who we think does a lot of similar things. We can get him again. So I'm with Daryl. I think it'll end up being, well, if they stick and pick at 6, I think it'll end up being Spencer Fennell and Casey Concepcion. I ultimately think they trade back. I think that there's a really good opportunity that if Dallas doesn't move up to 3 with Arizona to go get an elite defensive player, there's a really good chance Jerry Jones.
Do they take a 12 then?
I would say that's where you get into the conversation about Monroe Freeling.
Okay.
If you see a guy slip, like if Ruben Bain is there, I think that's really hard to pass up if you're the Browns. But I would assume he's not there. I think that he's probably not getting past Kansas City at 9. So I think they would probably take a guy like Freeling if he's there at 12. And then we're talking about a Concepcion later and probably Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, a safety that's added in, is probably where you go for the 3 picks.
Well, if they take Ruben Bain, I think the countdown clock on Myles Garrett's time in Cleveland begins for everybody, right? I mean, everyone's just going to assume that, okay.
See, that's the assumption.
I know, I get it. And
who are you taking at 12?
If they're at 12?
Yeah, if they trade back to 12, who'd you take?
I would probably, again, I would go on the offensive line, and
maybe Spencer Fano still. There's a chance he's there.
No, that's an interesting. I was going to say he could be there.
I mean, it depends how that board falls, but I think that their first pick is going to be an offensive lineman because it has to be. Like if you need a premier player in that room, okay. But I also feel like that's still one of the better players in the draft as well. It's
he's good. He's good. No, it's not too much of a reach. I agree.
It's not one of those situations where you're just filling a need for filling a need. You're still getting
high-level player,
high-level player in this draft class there. So
a kind of a mix, right? You're getting a top-level guy, and you're filling a massive need for sure.
I kind of almost want. I mean, I think Dallas. I think Kansas City. Like those are the teams that I'm thinking of as far as a trade down. Again, because I want the 27 first rounder to do it. Okay, and Dallas can keep number 20. I don't need I don't feel like this is a draft where you need 3 first round picks. And going back to the last time the Browns had 3 first round picks in the draft, it was Myles Garrett. I think Jabril Peppers was the 22nd pick, and then David Njoku, and it was I believe 29. In that draft, okay? You came in with now only one of those guys is still here, okay? We're talking 2017 that happened. One of those guys is still here, but 2 of those players ended up being cornerstones for your team for the better part of a decade. So that, looking back on that, okay, yeah, Jabril Peppers, was traded, but that was a successful first round for the Cleveland Browns. Like that worked out. Those were hits for the Browns, and I don't know that this is a draft where they need 3 first round picks. Keep 20, Dallas. Give me the because they did the deal with the Jets, so the Jets get the better of the pick between the Cowboys and the Packers next year, and it may be a deal where you can't legally consummate it until next year when you find out where the first round falls, where the Packers pick is, and that is, so then you can define, hey, okay, the Jets get the better one of our first round picks next year, either Green Bay or Dallas, and then the Browns will get the second, the leftover pick, in that trade.
See, I would take 3 players in the first round of this class, no matter. I wouldn't hesitate because I think you do have a lot of quality starter level players. If you're going to move down, I think you have a chance to take 3 really good ones. But on the other side of it, Daryl, you brought it up earlier, and it was a conversation we had last night during Blind Tier Tuesday as well. I think there's a really good shot that Andrew Berry legitimately surprises everybody. Like his comments of, oh, well, nobody thought we were trading down last year, and we did, and everybody thinks we're trading down this year. I think there's also a really good chance that you just get to 6 and the Browns go, well, we can't trade out of it.
Right.
And I'm Andrew Berry, and I think I get a receiver at 39 or 70.
Yeah.
I'll just take Caleb Downs because he's sitting on the board and he's a great player.
Right. Or they go Bain.
Yeah. I'll take the player who I have highest rated.
They slide down a couple of spots. He's the best player, and they take him. Like, I fully expect we're going to get a left turn.
He's such a good football player.
I
I know he's got the arms everybody talks about. Put the tape on. He is a destroyer.
I will say this about like Carnell Tate, and I do think this is something that's not been talked about enough. The Gator arms against Miami.
Yeah, sure.
Like that worries me a little bit. And I realize I am really picking on something that's very minute from one game. I understand that, but yeah, I just think a left turn is coming tomorrow. That we're just gonna be like, okay, didn't have that on the bingo card, because that's what the Browns do.
It's what Andrew Berry does in the draft, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why like Bain did like that wouldn't shock me. The afternoon boys were giving me some grief this afternoon because I'm not allowed to say I'm not going to be surprised by anything tomorrow when it happens. They don't want me tweeting up. No real surprise here with the Browns selecting where. But that's the thing. Like, no, I'm not surprised by anything the Browns do. I can't. Like, it's just I'm looking forward to tomorrow night and seeing what Andrew Berry's able to do to make this a better football team.
It's going to be really interesting. And, of course, we are going to be back next week. We'll be looking at this all over
We'll have actual names.
We'll have names.
We can fight over the picks.
We'll have breakdowns. We'll be ready to roll.
In what Andrew Berry messed up, and also, too, what Andrew Berry got right. Because he was on a heater last year. Remember that. He was on a heater last year. Need him to be on another one tomorrow night in the next 3 days.
He's trying to stay hot. I'm sure if Coach hasn't broken down the players that the Browns take, he probably will by the time that we get to next Tuesday.
We'll have it done.
So we'll have it all there for you. But for today's episode, we are out of time. Overtime with myself, taking you guys from 9 to 11. Again, we'll be back next week taking a whole review of this thing. But when we do, we'll have names. We'll have players. The draft will be concluded. In the meantime, for myself, for Lance Rice, and for Daryl Ryder, wish you a great rest of your night, and we will see you again next week with real names right here on the Fan Offseason Special.